And welcome here to our live webcast at world-challenge.com for our GT Sprint X race. GT, GTA, and GT Cup here this weekend. And Jeff Lepper joining you here with Calvin Fish. We'll have Ryan Marine on pit lane a little bit later. But Cal, this is for the big show, the GT3 category cars and GT Cup, as they set for a 60-minute, the Sprint X opener, 2 drivers as they get ready for the pit stop, obviously, too.
Yeah, and I think a major difference for this year with that pit stop window between the 25 and 35-minute mark of this 60-minute race is that it's now a mandatory 4-tire change. And with that brings you 45 seconds. It's essentially the time that's allocated for that pit stop, plus the pit lane delta, the amount of time that it takes to traverse down pit lane compared to being on the racetrack. So you're looking at 77 seconds total. That's the number they've got to try and manage and not be in front of that. Otherwise, you would be penalized. So a lot going on, obviously. First race of the championship season with Sprint X format. You just got to get your sums right. Don't fall afoul of the rules. And certainly some new talent on the grid. Some great GT racers from around the world will be making their Pirelli World Challenge debut here this afternoon.
And they do it at this great track, Circuit of the Americas. This area here, the S's at Circuit of the Americas.
Well, what a facility. I mean, everyone enjoys coming here when you climb that elevation up into Turn 1 for the very first time. It certainly is an eye-opener because a lot of the drivers look at the simulation of this track, but when you get here for real, it is something else. And plunging down there through the S's, it's a unique set of corners. And certainly the bumps here this year are a little bit more major than they were in years past. And we understand the track is actually going to bring in a major regrinding tool over the next few months here to get the major bumps taken out. But for the competitors here this weekend, that's part of the character of this racetrack, I think.
It is, and officially 20 turns for our Porsche race analysis here at Circuit of the Americas. 3.4 miles, looking at 18 cars set to take the green flag. I believe should have had 19, but we're missing one. The Callaway Corvette team, Daniel Kylewitz and Eric Curran. That car unfortunately suffered a motor problem earlier. They're getting that car replaced. Hopefully we'll see that car back again here tomorrow. Looking at temperatures right about low 70s. It was overcast, cloudy most of the day today. Sun is coming out now as we get ready to Surrett. We're looking at about 5 minutes here until we give our command to start engines. Just a little bit behind schedule today, but getting caught up. This track, you said the grinding that we talked about, that's the bumps here with these GT3 machines, the downforce they have, the brakings, the ABS, some cars with no ABS. How's that going to play out this race?
Well, it's just it's all about an adjustment from previous years. For teams that are returning here with the same car, you have kind of a setup, and suddenly the teams are going out there. Tony Vielander on his first outlap talking to the Rainbow Ferry team just said, I can't believe the bumps at this circuit, but you know, he hasn't driven that particular car. He's raced here, of course, before in other forms of competition, but it's bumpy, and you know, it's just something you got to deal with. Raise your ride heights a little bit, change your shock absorber package a little bit to deal with it. But by this stage of the weekend, everyone's fully dialed in. They know what they need to do, and now it's all about going racing.
Well, you did talk about one of the keys there with this track, and we talk about the facility here at Circuit of the Americas. All the 18 cars set to take the green flag. Looking at the race length with the rules the way they are, different tires now, different pit stop rules. No longer do you have to qualify in the race tires.
Yeah, and you're basically given an allotment for the whole weekend. It's 4 new sets plus a carryover set. There's a few teams that are running here for the first time this season for Sprint X competitions, so they've actually been allowed 5 new sets to work with. And it's important how you manage those, because essentially, if you think about it, you could be starting with a new set, putting a new set back on for the second half and doing the same thing again tomorrow. So that's 4 sets right there if you chose to use it in that way. You got qualifying to get through, but what we saw in practice was a lot of times being set on old rubber that was well used, didn't have their peak performance, and that's kind of tricky with your setup, because if you're going to throw new rubber at it for the important stuff, then it's kind of a different direction in terms of the balance of the race car. So it's managing that. Certainly going to compromise some of your practice sessions in terms of having sweet Pirelli P0 rubber to use, but that's all part of the game. It's the same for everyone.
We talk about that pit stop between the 25 and the 35-minute time distance that it has to be completed by. You can't enter pit lane until the 25-minute mark, and you got to be entering pit lane by the 35-minute mark. But if you're a single nut lug, which a majority of the GT3 cars are, you're allowed 1 wheel gun to do 4 tires. If you have multiple lug nuts, you're allowed 2 wheel guns and 2 people over the wall. Can you get it done in 45 seconds?
You can, but it's no gimme. You can't afford any fumbles. It can suddenly burn you pretty hard. So you've still got that 35-mile-an-hour pit lane speed. So that's going to take you 32 seconds. You got essentially 45 minutes before it turns into a penalty in terms of time lost. So it can be done, but it's going to be a hustle.
It will be, and we'll see if the crews are going to be able to get that done. It really makes this more of that team sport, putting the crews in the hands here, and then those second drivers. The way the rules work in the Pro-Am category, the amateur car driver has to qualify and start the car, with the pro going in. Whoever finishes the race today starts the race tomorrow. So in theory, you'll have all the pros starting the race tomorrow, because the AMs will start today. On the Pro, you can designate who you want. It doesn't matter. And then going to our AMs, same thing. Designate the AMs for going that. And it's going to play out with this pit strategy now. Extra 10 minutes on the clock. No refueling, but you still that mandatory 4-tire change. And just a few more moments away to get this command underway. Some of the notables in the field going to be your pole sitter in that ACS Manufacturing Lone Star Racing Mercedes-AMG GT3. Mike Skeen setting that fastest race lap. 2:05.664. Getting all the drivers there. They did try to do a clear the grid. Get all the drivers down on pit lane. Get the doors closed. One final cinch of the belts before they give the command to start engines here today.
Just some clarification, the 25-minute mark, you used to have to see a flag at the start-finish line, and then on the following lap, that opened up the window to come in. Now it's right on the 25-minute mark. Clarification from the earlier race with the GTS cars, it's actually 35 minutes you got to be in pit lane. You don't have to have completed that stop. So it's a full 10-minute window to do that mandatory stop. There will be some drivers who are going solo today. They basically can sit still, just have the tire change done with no mandatory driver change necessarily, but certainly everyone needs to take those 4 tires.
That's actually led by your GT-AM pole sitter, the number 63 Security National Mortgage Mercedes, David Eskew, in his Mercedes setting the fastest time, and he's doing that race all by himself. And going back to Alan Metney, your pole sitter in our GT Cup category as well in the iFly Indoor Skydiving Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. He set on pole doing the race by himself. Well, joining our broadcast team, Ryan Marine down on pit lane for our command to start engines.
Now give the command to start engine. Rafael Navarro from Pirelli, North America.
Well, Rafael Navarro, your chief marketing officer of Pirelli Tire, and Cal, what Pirelli has done, you've been with the Pirelli World Challenge for a long time. Before it was Pirelli WC, they've really come in and changed this whole program and format of the series.
They really have. It's been a wonderful partner to have, a great product, probably most importantly, because to go racing, there's only 4 things that are touching the ground, and that's those black round things, and the Pirelli Pre-Zero has been a brilliant tire for this championship, along with the marketing and the platform that they provide for the Pirelli World Challenge Championship. It's great stuff. It's great to see them continue, and I know everyone's going to be beating on those tires pretty hard, particularly with the opportunity to throw another fresh set at it 25 to 35 minutes in.
And this Pirelli B0 tire, this is the tire they race globally in all the GT3 platforms and series that race that Pirelli supports. So a lot of engineering data they're getting from these tires, able to make that product that much better. There's a good shot of our BMW M3 GTS pace car from Classic BMW. Want to give a huge thank you to Classic BMW providing our pace cars here this year with that M3 GTS. The beautiful medical vehicle right back there. You see that BMW X5 going to be pacing the field behind to make sure all of our drivers are safe on the very first lap. That was a long lap here. I don't know if they keep up the whole field here in the GT3 field. So I have to look for a little cutoff to pull in, but going through the grid like we talked about before, Mike Skeen on the pole. Second place is that K-Pax Bentley Continental GT3. Alvaro Perrin was the qualifier in that car. And you go back to the R Ferry Motorsports 488 GT3 of Tony Vielander. And our hearts are heavy for Remo Ferri. Had an unfortunate death in the family. Had to go back to Italy, missing the St. Petersburg round and this round. So just want to wish him well. All of our thoughts and prayers are with you, Remo. And I know you're watching Italy right now, watching Vielander go in that car.
Yes, it's been a hard time for Remo of late, but we certainly our thoughts are with him. And it's an all-Ferrari second row on the grid, and I have to say one of the most impressive performances in qualifying is by Wei Lu, running number 31, TR3 Racing Ferrari 488 GT3, Ferrari of Vancouver entry. That's an amazing performance for him to be only 4 tenths behind Tony Vielander, a Ferrari factory guy. early on in his career. Was it 4 years ago? He was running the Mini at TCB, and there he sits on the second row of the grid for the big one here this afternoon.
That's one of the great advantages of Pirelli World Challenge, able to move up the ladder. He ran Ferrari Challenger the last few years, now back into GT3 machine. You see him back there in that Ferrari of Vancouver, their first foray into professional motorsports as well, sponsoring that TR3 Ferrari, so good to see him here. Daniel Murad in that DeVilbiss Mercedes. He'll start in the 7th position from CRP Racing. There's your good shot of the Audi. And Tim Pappas coming back to the Pirelli World Challenge with co-driver no less than Jerome Bleekemolen in that Black Swan Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3. Some of our GT Cup competitors. Alan Metney on the pole. David Baker behind him, and then number 56, Apex Financial Porsche. And then you got JC Perez and his P1 Motorsports Lamborghini Huracan, and the team of Adam Meduzzi and Hardwick in the Dream Racing Motorsports Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo in the GT Cup class.
5th on the grid there, you can see number 96, the FAF Racing Porsche of Scott Hargrove. What a championship debut he had at St. Petersburg. Swept both the races there on the streets. But this is the very first time that he's competed where he's had to do a driver change. So when he turns it over to former Porsche factory driver until this last year, in fact, even though he's still very much in the Porsche fold, Wolf Hensler will be taking over the reins of that FAF Racing Porsche number 96, our championship leader. Yeah, Wolf, no slouch behind the wheel and very familiar with Porsche machine. I think he's been a Porsche factory driver for 15, 16 years. He's still hungry. He goes back. And he's the Wolf. He's the Wolf. No pun intended. Good shot there, the number 41 Loki-sponsored Global Motorsports Group Porsche 911 GT3R of young Alec Udell, Matthew Jamine, behind the wheel of that car. And we'll talk about that car a little bit later as they're starting to come around to take the green flag, Cal. Yeah, and that's a great story. Great to see Alec Udell back on our grid. And what a flying machine he has as a teammate in Matthew Jamine. Coming down out of turn number 19, down here into the braking zone of turn 20, onto the front stretch as they enter our acceleration zone. Looking for that green flag to go green here for Sprint X competition. The front stretch here at Circuit of the Americas, the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Texas is underway. Green flag. Wow, big spread out there in the middle of the field as the front two rows get stacked up. Alvaro Print heads the field up into turn 1. It's Mike Skino pulls it down to the inside. Vilander looks to the inside. That was tight. Wow. Brent sweeps wide. 3 wide. Wei Lu going to lose some positions. He's going to go back to maybe 6th, 7th place. Alec Udell up to 4th. Good run for him in that 41 Porsche. It's Vilander, though, pressuring Skeen. Wow, what a start for Tony Vilander. Looking really feisty here in the opening laps. And Vilander and Prent trying to recover from massive crashes at St. Petersburg in round 2 just a few weeks ago. Mike Skeen in that ACS Manufacturing from Lone Star Racing, Texas-based team. Teaming up with Scott Checkered, who's been superb in GT3 machine as well. Did some racing in Europe for the last couple of years. The last we saw him was in a Sin R1 in our GTS competition. So he's able to go into that Mercedes now. Yeah, he's going to be a good fit. Had some time with the Black Falcon team. One of the prime. Oh, look at this move. Christensen down to the inside. That is really close. Morad just clears the apex in the DeVilbiss number 2 Mercedes. Hargrove under attack right now as Christensen and he go side by side down the straightaway. Battle of the drag races, the Porsche 911 GT3Rs. Vilander looking to the inside, Print protecting to the inside against Alec Udell. Alec will try to square this corner up, get a good run as they go side by side through 12. Yeah, I think Brent's just going to wash out a little bit, maybe take that line away from Alec as they head down to turns 13. Christensen and Hargrove, this battle continues between the two Porsches. Oh, and you see Christensen go a little bit wide there. Brent's been shuffled back. Brent's back to 5th. Yeah, Murad got around him as well. Udell into 3rd. Murad down to the inside of Udell for that battle for 3rd. They're going to be side by side through this quadruple apex right-handers around the Circuit of the Americas tower here at the amphitheater. Alec Udell is on fire. He may be fired up because he had several times disallowed for track limit violations this morning. The car has been quick here this weekend. And what a story by GMG. This car was basically just a tub a week ago. A massive thrash to get that car ready for this weekend as they got the nod for the program to continue. But he and Jamine are a factor here today. Yes, so I saw that car Friday morning on the frame machine with the back half of the car sitting on the ground. That's how close it was. It's Murad down to the inside, trying to see if he can make that move on Alec Udell. Oh, and he pushes out wide a little bit, takes Alec with him. Brent gets a bit of a run, but Alec hangs on to the 3rd position. Morad comes back at him. through the S's. Here we go, there's a touch.
Yeah, Alex got no choice but to back off, let Murad go through. And Daniel Murad, hungry here, trying to get around Alec Udell. Now Perrint going to battle with Udell in that number 41. The battle for fourth between these two young drivers.
The battle for sixth continues between the two Porsches. Hargrove just hanging on from Christensen in the Allegra Motorsports, number 24.
Oh, good stuff here. Battling for that third position. It's going to be Murad's going to pull away from Udell a little bit. Perrint looking down to the inside. Hargrove clear of Christensen now for that 6th and 7th place. Perrint over Udell. And I got a chance to talk to Neville Agas about that Porsche and what they did and the crew working overtime. He said all the time from Friday until the car got here Wednesday, Alec Udell was there at the shop as well, doing what he could to get that car built, to help out. It was a truly team effort, and what a great job. Loki, blockchain company, security company, and they actually really cool. Just like a patent search if you're looking to make a product. It's a great company, great corporation. They're supporting Alec here this season.
Well, the great backstory of that is John Wise, who basically heads up that corporation, was a crew guy on Alec's GT Cup season a couple of years ago and just really enjoyed the experience. And now he's got a company that's ultra successful right now, is in a position to back Alec and get him back on the road here as his season kind of is taking a bit of a false start, but he's back there and you can see what he can do. The young man is really on form right now.
Yeah, ran last year with Euro World Motorsports, Porsche 911 GT3R, stepping into this car with Global Motorsports Group this season. And Alec Udell, just a superb talent, part of the Porsche Young Driving Academy graduation there. Got to go to the Porsche Night of Champions when he won the GT Cup Championship in that Porsche, and just doing a superb job here so far today, back in 4th place.
Mike Skeen, he's another young driver who really seems to have slipped through the net a little bit, has had a lot of success in Pirelli World Challenge over the years, but didn't get a regular ride the last couple of seasons. But now he's back and just showcasing what he can do. You give him the tools. This Lone Star Racing Mercedes AMG is just flying here this weekend. Just taking off at the front, extending the lead on Vilander.
Looking at Rodrigo Baptista, he's your GT Pro-Am race leader right now, back in 8th place overall in his Bentley Continental GT3. Won 4 races last season in the GTS competition, and that Porsche came in with Flying Lizards. Of course, the K-Pax racing team, supported by Flying Lizards, able to move up into this GT3 AM category.
Tony Vielander's line there in turn 11. He's just trying to avoid the massive bumps there. You can see him sort of weave around. It's a little bit like running at Monaco, coming through Casino Square. On the run down the hill, you just kind of move out to take away the biggest bumps. But things settling in right now. Skeen looking comfortable at the front. Vielander, nice recovery. This car was severely crashed. Been a mad thrash for that team as well. Ferry Motorsport team left St. Petersburg at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, a 20-hour straight drive, 5 days of hard work. They've also put the new Evo kit, the updated bodywork and aerodynamics on that race car. And Tony is now going to be competing here with Miguel Molina, who's now under the Ferrari arm as well, and been a long-time Audi factory pilot, competing in DTM amongst other things.
Well, Vilander continues around in 2nd place. You got Daniel Murad back there in 3rd. Alec Udell in 4th. Like you said, Cal, things settling down a little bit. And to see, it was funny listening to Enrico talk about what he had to do, where he got the first stint in the truck, had to order the parts on the way from Italy, then he had to drive the rest of the way up there. So obviously Enrico Denaio, one of our Jim Cook Memorial Award winners.
Essentially the guy's only had about a week from getting back to having to get back on the road and drive across. Just 2 weeks between our first 2 rounds of the championship.
Alec Udell is our Optima Battery Best Start of the Race Award winner as well. And obviously with the start that he got, starting all the way back in the 9th place and moving up to 3rd. So 6 positions on that first start. Good job for young Alec Udell.
How good is his teammate? I think Jamine's been on the pole now, fastest lap in every event he's competed at here. Porsche Cup, IMSA competition, and obviously here as well last year, around with James Safronis in the GTA class. Man is a machine. He just attacks the S's. It'll be fun to see him this afternoon in that number 41 Loki entry.
It's good to see Matthew Jaminet coming back to that Global Motorsports Group team too. You already know the ins and outs of the team. You know the communication with the crew chief and the team that really helps fit in when these guest drivers come in on a Sprint X weekend.
It does. I mean, he's found a good home here. Certainly, James Safronis knows him really well. Unfortunately, because there wasn't a commitment to the program on this side of things, Porsche have committed Jaminet elsewhere, but I think he can do 4 of the 5 rounds, so that will certainly be a great asset for Alec Udell if this program continues down the road.
We talk about hard work with that Capex Bentley as well. That was their 3rd car that they got built up to get ready to go, but hard work paying off as well. At St. Pete was the accident that Hargrove had in qualifying for that team, and they had to get that car repaired, Cal.
Yeah, they were lucky, in fact, because he basically just tore off the right front corner of that race car, but didn't really suffer any major chassis damage. They were able to get it fixed. He went out and repaid the crew with a double victory. You know, they just haven't quite found the sweet spot. Seems like the Porsche don't have the pace of some of the other cars here this weekend, but that's the nature of a championship. It's horses for courses. Some marks will have an advantage one weekend, and some the others.
Michael Christensen right behind him, teaming with Spencer Pompelli in that Allegra Motorsports NSYNC Healthcare Systems Porsche 911 GT3R. And obviously last race, it was Spencer Pompelli. They were competing against each other, but here's a good between Yuki Urata in that Dream Racing Huracan GT3, your GT Cup champion, stepping up to the Huracan GT3 full GT3 machine, and Tim Pappas from Black Swan Racing in his Porsche 911. Good battle here.
Yeah, I think Yuki's really made this transition over the GT3 Lamborghini really nicely this year. Had a strong year last year, winning GT Cup, but makes the move up. And I thought he drove very well. Had a couple of moments at St. Petersburg, but all in all, I thought his pace was excellent.
You see Tim Pappas there. You're actually your points leader in the Intercontinental GT Championship in the AM category, winning the Bathurst 12 Hours with this Black Swan team. They've committed to the entire Intercontinental GT series, so you'll see him race with Jerome Bleekemolen at the 24 Hours of Spa coming up, the Suzuka 10 Hours, and then rounding out the Intercontinental Championship at the California 8 Hour in October at now WeatherTech Raceway.
Yeah, Tim's really got a lot of great racing progress, and typically he's got Jerome Bleekemolen, one of the fastest GT drivers in the world, at his hip, so they get a lot of results.
There is Cesar Baccarella, sorry about that. Martin Fuentes in that Hublot Ferrari, teaming up with this young driver. Did some Ferrari Challenge, did some K&N Pro Series races, has Cesar, and he's able to get around David Askew at the start to lead in our GT AM category.
Fuentes going for 3 in a row, as we now see Yuki trying to make a move on Tim Pappas down in the brake zone for turn 12. But yeah, Baccarella is a bit of a transition from a Ferrari Challenge car up to this, but he's been testing, and talking to Martin this weekend, he said he was very strong in testing at Homestead. Didn't quite show the same sort of pace here this weekend, but he's settling in. And talking to a couple of guys that have worked with him in Ferrari Challenge, they said he does have the ability. When he's on, he is really on, but sometimes he just gets a little bit astray. So, you know, he's just honing in right now. The key for Fuentes is to give him that car in a good position. I mean, Martin was so strong at St. Petersburg, particularly the second race. His pace was kind of equal to the leaders there, and he had the sweep in GTA that weekend.
Yeah, Alpha Prime sponsoring him. There is your second, your GTM category car, the Security National Mortgage Mercedes of David Askew. But we talk about Alan Metney in that Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. He's leading our GT Cup category. You see that iFly indoor skydiving on the side of that car, was the proprietor of that business. The car prepped by Kelly Moss, was part of the old United States parachute team in competition. Figured, well, getting too old to jump out of planes, so I might figure out a way to just do skydiving on the ground, and came up with the iFly concept, and now out here racing. David Baker right behind him, running in that Apex Financial Porsche.
Yeah, those iFly facilities, I have one close to my house in Atlanta, Georgia, and there's always a big crowd there. The parking lot is always full. Super successful.
Seeing our GT Cup category car, 5 cars strong here this weekend, so good field for the GT Cup category cars. I believe Marco Radicic in his Ferrari 458 Challenge car was not able to make the grid here today. Alternator problems, and I think they found one in Denmark is the closest one they can find, huh?
That's crazy. That something as simple you would think is to be able to find an alternator for Ferrari. They couldn't locate one here in the States. Even went globally, but no way getting that part here in time to effect a fix this weekend.
Well, here's Alec Udell, and he's with his teammate Matthew Jaminet down on pit lane.
Yeah, you guys were talking about it a moment ago, Matthew Jaminet. You like this place. You've had some really good success here. What does that do for your mindset coming into a weekend, knowing it's a track that you've done well at in the past?
Yeah, just feel confident. I did well there last year with GMG, so yeah, we are right with a last-minute call, but a good package in the end. So far, Alec is doing a fantastic job, so just looking forward and jump in the car now.
So, as you said, it's been a good weekend so far for the group. What are you expecting from the car in your stint?
Actually, I don't really know. There is a tire change, so we will see with the new tires. But at the moment, we are in a really good position with P4. So if I have the speed to catch the top three, I will go for it and try to pass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Matthew Jaminet there, the team driver with this young Alec Udell in that Loki-sponsored Porsche, trying to see if they can get a full season of competition here. I think they're committed to the Sprint X rounds, and hopefully we'll see Alec behind the wheel solo at the Long Beach Grand Prix coming up in 3 short weeks. Maybe they'll have a little bit more time to make the car a little bit better, because being in P4, not bad for that team in Neville Gas.
It's awesome. It's an awesome race that they got going on here, and we know that Jaminet can get the job done at the finish. So hats off to that whole group. I know James Safronis is a really big believer in Alec Udell and his abilities and the talent that the boy brings to the table. He's a very smart young man and ticks all of the boxes. And as you said, when the chips were down, he was in there helping the crew out as well, getting this car prepped and ready for this weekend.
7th year of competition, the Clemson engineering student getting it done there. As you see that battle, everybody's sort of staying straight there. There's a good shot of Parker Chase, the number 19 True Speed vertical bridge car, and got a good teammate there with Ryan Dial.
Yes, I mean, Ryan has such a long history with Tyler Tadevec, who owns that team and group, and it was a natural fit for him. A little bit of a surprise, I think, that he didn't return with CRP when they came so close to the Sprint X Championship, narrowly missing out here last year, but he won one of the races here last year with Daniel Moret as his teammate, but he's made the move. Been coaching Parker Chase. He was there at St. Petersburg up in the grandstands talking his boy through. And this is one of the teams that kind of used that different tire strategy in qualifying today. Actually put a fresh set of tires on Parker's car halfway through, really leaped him up the timesheets. And that's just I like the way that they're allowing the teams to use their allotment however they'd like to. All of your times are wiped out if you do change tires during qualifying, but you can have a reset and go again.
Yeah, it's also a gamble there, because if there's a red flag or something happens, you don't get a time. You just lost all of your times. You're starting shotgun on the field. But this young Parker Chase, 17 years old, just turned 17 here in February. One of the youngest competitors here in Pirelli World Challenge competition. Good to see him stepping up into GT3 machine. Ran the Ginetta last season, last few seasons actually, in the GTS category.
Pretty cool story about, we talked about those 5 sets of tires. This is a team that are competing in Sprint X for the first time, and there was a lot of talk about, well, what can we do with the carryover set? And they said, okay, you can use a new set. There were none here on site. Team told Tyler Tadevec, who was over in Vegas with the other part of his race team competing in Pirelli Cup. He said, where are they? He said, they're in Vegas. He said, I'm in Vegas. He went and grabbed a set and carried them on the plane last night on his return back here to Austin.
Must have been weird checking those as bags on the gate check there. But Mike Skeen in this Lone Star Racing Mercedes pulls out about a 2.3 second gap over Tony Vielander, of course, ACS Manufacturing. Dan Knox, the team owner with this car, the team managed by AJ Peterson, and AJ's got a real beautiful old school 50, I think a 53 Cadillac that he's got out here. Looks like an old Panamera La Carrera car, but Mike Skeen was given laps and rides in that car, and unfortunately I missed the boat getting a ride in that beautiful Cadillac.
Well, Mike Skeen is just reminding us once again what a premier GT pilot he is, with that pole position time. Jumped to the top of the charts quickly this morning, and was very smart and savvy there in the opening few corners to hold on at that lead without any rub, without any argy-bargy. And he's taken off a little bit here. It's going to be a lot of pressure on young Scott Hecker to take over potentially from the lead of this race. But he certainly got great experience in a hotbed of competition in the Blancpain Endurance Championship last year with a big Mercedes team, Black Falcon.
Well, to see Mike Skeen here, and this is one of those that you don't really know how the strategy is going to play out, especially on the pro categories. Will they split the time evenly? Will one pit early, one pit late? You got to think with Mike Skeen having the experience that he has in Pirelli World Challenge, might try to stay in that car as long as he can. It looks like Yuki Hirata able to get around Tim Pappas now.
Yeah, it's a great little battle here, and Tim always seems to find himself in the battle. I remember a couple of big ones last year with James Safronis, and Tim is really a great Pro-Am driver.
See
a look at here. finally makes it stick pretty tight there. Tim had to use all of the curb, tries to come back at him in that little stadium section, as I call it. Turns 12 through 15.
Wow, good close racing there between those two drivers, and Yuki able to pull away. Team with Alessandro Brisson. If you want to be a race car driver, once you go over to Dream Racing in Vegas, that's what Yuki Hirata did a track day there, drove an exotic car, said, hey, I think I might want to do this some more, the old downhill skier for Japan. And Alessandro said, well, we have a program for you. They moved him up through the ranks into the GT Cup category, now into full GT3 machine.
We should have got Yuki on a pair of skis and wet the track down there and come down turn one the other way.
133 foot down, you ski right down there, but one too many hard hits in skiing, I think, and looking to do something else and just enjoying being a professional race car driver now, working his way up.
See, their track limits is always a point of concern with the stewards here this weekend, but they're giving them a little bit of leeway down there through the S. The main point is through the final couple of corners. You can essentially be in almost a different zip code there and gain a lot of time. You can see they're coming through the S. You see those orange colored humps there. You don't want to be hitting those. They're pretty severe, can really put a shock through the whole car and suspension system, maybe break something.
Well, Alan Metne doing a good job staying off those yellow curbs, leading not very much from David Baker there. The gap only 1.4 seconds for our GT Cup lead. You got to go back to JC Perez. He's about 7 seconds back. As we look for some more of the field here, is Alvaro Prent, his Bentley coming through, Scott Hargrove, Michael Christensen, still in that Allegro Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R, and won last year at the 24 Hours of Daytona in that car with Spencer Pompelli, and the guy right there in that DeVilbiss Mercedes, Daniel Murad. So they're all competing against each other, and now Spencer and Christensen teammates when they were competing 3 weeks ago. So these drivers just trying to get rides and compete against each other and race against each other, with each other.
I think Perent's not going to be too happy with his current position. Had a really nice qualifying run this morning, just narrowly off the pole position, lined up second on the grid. Just got out shuffled there in the early laps. And he's trying to rebound from a weekend that didn't go his way in many ways. I think one thing that he did do is walk away from a big crash when he had that brake failure in race 2, but didn't get beyond the second corner in the first round. There was damage to the race car, big fix by the whole group, and maybe that was a consequence of the brake failure on day 2. Tough to tell, but either way, he walked away from a massive incident, and he lost the brakes at high speed at St. Petersburg. So as you mentioned, Jeff, this is the third car that they had in the workshop, but it wasn't ready to go. So that's another team that's been in a scramble to get ready for this race weekend. So you think about Ferry, you think about GMG, you think about Capex. A lot of midnight oil has been burned over the last couple of weeks.
It is a team sport, and the teams are the ones getting these cars ready. That OptiCoat sponsored Bentley of Alvaro Perent. Talked with Darren Law. They had a customer program for this third car. Sort of fell through sort of last minute, so that got put on the back burner. And then obviously after the incident, like you said, getting that car built up and getting it ready here for Alvaro Perent. Had some electrical problems in the test day on Thursday. I think they only did about 4 laps. Andy Suchek will be teaming up with Alvaro Perent. He'll be getting in the car. Those two drivers, teammates now, have had a long history racing open wheel cars together in Europe, and sedans both with McLaren. Never raced with each other, but always racing against each other.
Yeah, a lot of respect between those two guys. Raced on the same McLaren team, but not in the same car. But I spoke to Andy this morning. He said it's a great fit. We've always wanted to drive together. This is the first opportunity we had. He said when I realized that Alvaro was going to stay with the Capex team and they joined with Bentley, he said I pushed hard to get the ride and was able to secure it. So he said I'm very pumped. As you mentioned, first time in the States, loves the racetrack, did a lot of work on the simulation. He said it's a lot different when you get here, particularly this turn that Alvaro's climbing into right now, turn 1. But Andy Suchek's one of the best in the business and was immediately on the pace here yesterday.
That's the first time this season with all of Alvaro Perent's experience that he's ever raced a right-hand drive car. I'm sure he's driven one, but to get behind the wheel and drive one in anger, so with the paddle shifters, it's really not that big of a deal, but still with your awareness inside the car, that takes some adjusting to get to.
Yeah, and he said he's still not 100%. He had to compete in the 12 hours of Sebring, which is certainly going to bump and bruise you anyway, but he has some rib injuries from that crash at St. Petersburg. He said, I'm still not right. He said, I need a break, but 3 weekends in a row of racing, he had to compete, and he's just digging deep here to try and get through and then get a little bit of a rest period and try and get those ribs back in a good shape for the next round of our championship.
For the CRP Racing Service King, the Vilbus Mercedes AMG with Daniel Murad behind the wheel, sitting in third right now, pushing his way up in through the field. Started back in the 7th position, so he's gained 4 positions so far during the race.
We're pretty close, not this time, Jeff, but next time by, we could be into that 25 to 35 minute window for anyone to make a pit stop. So we'll have to observe our leader, Mike Skeen, when he comes around those final couple of corners, look at the clock. And I think they're going to be, looking at it right now, they should be able to make a pit stop on the next lap, not this one, but the next time by the pits.
Especially for those teams that want to pit right at the 25 mark.
Yeah.
I think we'll see some strategy playing out where a few of these drivers might be staying out a little bit later. I know Wei Lu, who started so good, 4th position, drops all the way back to 10th in that TR3 Motorsports Ferrari 488 GT3. Is going to want to get Jeff Siegel behind the wheel of that car right away as Mike Skeen comes out of turn number 20, crosses the line. Still about 1:20 left, Cal, before you can do that pit stop.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the leader necessarily who pits first. As soon as the 25-minute mark hits, anyone is then allowed to come into pit lane. So slight change in the rules from last year. But as you mentioned, Skeen, super quick here. Scott Heckert has done a good job, but they might try and keep Mike out there because he's in a rhythm. He's got good pace right now. And then turn it over to Scott Heckert. But the problem with staying out, if there's a caution, suddenly the lead that you've had can be erased. You've still got to make your pit stop, and someone behind you still on the lead lap can suddenly close up right behind you and leapfrog over you when your car comes down pit lane. So you're rolling the dice a little bit to gain a little bit.
Well, it's a big gamble, and pit stop's coming up next. Can't really wait for that to happen. It's going to see how this plays out with all the strategy, all the teams, and we get to see tire changes for the first time here in Pirelli World Challenge competition during the races. So that team aspect really playing a role here in our GT category. Mike Skeen, Scott Heckert leading in that ACS Manufacturing Mercedes. Tony Vielander in the R. Ferry Ferrari, the number 61. Miguel Molina will take over from him. And Daniel Murad going to give up reins there to the young Fabian Schiller. Tuesday night got the call in Germany. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Want to come drive a car?
I know, and that's a tough one because a lot of these teams and drivers will use simulators to try and get their drivers up to speed for a new circuit. There was no time for that. He was checking out YouTube videos on the plane over to just try and familiarize himself with the circuit of the Americas. And he said it's just a little bit different. He said, I just got a reset last night. He said, I think I'll be in better shape today. I had a good think about it. Looked at Daniel's data, and a nice young man. I met him earlier today as he was about to grab some lunch.
20-year-old, ran the Formula Masters Series, moved up into block paint with HRT Motorsports now competing with Mercedes, so part of the Mercedes Young Driver Program. Let's see if Mike Skeen comes in the pit this time by. He does not, going to stay out, but pit lane is open, so we'll see if there's going to be any takers here right at that 25-minute mark.
Skeen stays out as the Vielander and Morad. You would think that maybe a Tim Pappas or someone like that with a guy like Blake Emolen standing on the pit wall, he may take the first opportunity to get him in, and there you see Brent's in. So I think Brent's race was not going how the K-Pax team anticipated, so they're rolling the dice here, hoping that the race comes to them. Parker chases in, Ryan Dale going to jump in, the number 19 Audi.
And both Porsches come in, Scott Hargrove, Michael Christensen, there is Wei Lu in that TR3 Ferrari, so action heating up down there on pit lane.
Makes a lot of sense because you can suddenly gain a whole heap of time here if there was suddenly a caution for some reason. Andy Soucek jumping into that yellow and black Bentley. Spanish driver, super successful over the years. Close to a Formula One career as well, Jeff.
Oh, he was, yeah. He was really trying to get in a Williams test drive in 2009. Went to the open test. He won the F2 championship, and that earned him a ride for that test and was fastest outright amongst all the Formula One drivers there with Williams. Ultimately lost that ride. Even to be a test driver, it comes down to money, I guess, in Formula One.
Until you establish yourself, it's all about the money. You see Baccarella and Fuentes will be taken over.
Oh, it looks
there's
like
something
Pompelli
going on here. It looks like a little bit of miscommunication here as Pompelli finally gets going. Took victory in a Sprint X round at Lime Rock last year for Magnus Racing.
So it's like Soucek gets out.
Well, Well, the FAF Racing Porsche, they run in close proximity to the Allegra car, and suddenly they come out with a few seconds. So I think the FAF Racing team's pit stop looked to be executed a little bit more on time.
Martin Fuentes' car.
2016 GTA champion returns to Pirelli World Challenge competition. He had 9 victories that year or something.
9 victories, set the
just went
record
on a
for
tear.
victories in Pirelli World Challenge competition. You see Tim Pappas being released with Jerome Bleekemolen behind the wheel of that Black Swan racing machine. Martin Fuentes in that Hublot Ferrari won both races at St. Pete. He gets behind the wheel of his Ferrari. So a lot of driver changes here as the top 3. As I just saw Skeen go by, so that puts those 2 drivers a lap down now as Skeen can get around Bleekemolen, which if Bleekemolen gets up to speed, I don't think that's going to happen, but he does. Not quite up to temperatures yet. Brand new tires now, so you still have to get these tires up to temp.
Yeah, and that was the advantage before. Okay, you have worn rubber, but they got tire temps over the second driver, as we see Mendy go for a little bit of a ride there, coming out of turn 11.
Yeah, that should put David Baker up into the GT Cup lead. But Mike Skeen looks like he's coming down through turn number 10. Stayed out for one more lap. 31 minutes here. See if we can see a replay here of what happened with Alan Metney as he came down into turn number 11.
Whoa, sure right. He got a tap or not. The 24 trying to get down to the inside. Spencer Pumpelly, and whether there was any contact or not, we'll have to try and get another look at that. As now we see Morad in, turn it over to Schiller. I think we were seeing the very end of that pit stop because he was released pretty sharpish.
Matthew Jaminet and the number 41 Porsche behind him going, and we'll see what Fabian Schiller can do here now in this De Vilbius Mercedes car that was running third. So we'll have to wait for pit stops to cycle through.
Suchek is around.
And I thought there was another car involved in there, and there was. Look at the damage there, and I believe that was the Hargrove car.
Or I think the 41, I think Jaminet may have been involved. I think I saw the 41 initially in the spin, and then other cars came through the incident afterwards. I'm not sure whether that was Suchek was on completing his outlap, and whether Jaminet was then suddenly just caught him at apex.
And here comes your leader, Mike Skeen, down onto pit lane. Going to give that car over to Scott Checkered.
Well, that number 9 Bentley can't catch a break this year. 3 races, 3 incidents.
Let's see if we can see a replay about what happened here, as we're going to watch Vilander right behind that Mercedes coming down pit lane.
Yeah, they're only going 35 miles an hour, so the gap will look a little closer than it possibly was on the racetrack. But Vilander looks like he had a hot in-lap. Now it's all about execution. Miguel Molina going to be jumping in, taking over from Vilander's stint. Behind them, Scott Checkered taking over the reins of the Lone Star Racing Mercedes AMG. And this is how frantic it is right now. 45 seconds to get all 4 of those Pirelli P0s switched over, and the driver change should be easily completed in that time.
And all the equipment has to be back behind the wall before the car goes as well. So it's a delicate ballet now with these crews doing the tire changes and making the adjustments they can, and the driver change. You can do the driver change pretty much. I think some teams have it down to just below 20 seconds. Talking to them, and then you either make sure you watch the clock. You don't want to release too early to make that 70-second time delta. And wow, look at that. Miguel Molina releases as well as they come down pit lane side by side, Cal.
Yeah, and that was a close one. Maybe Lone Star were just giving a little bit of a buffer there. They didn't want to cut it too tight, and now the pressure is really on Scott Checkered on cold tires to try and chase down one of the best GT racers in the business, Miguel Molina. You see how carefully they have to tread. Even though it's a warm day here, Jeff, those tires right now do not have the grip, but they'll come alive pretty quickly when you load them up through these S's.
They sure will. The downforce that these cars carry, you got to think that heats up the tires. I know, even talking to the teams, though, it's 2 to 3 laps before the magical portion of these tires, and they're able to set qualifying time laps. But get these pros here getting word that it was the car 41 and car 9 that had a tangle up there in turn number 1 with the Bentley and the Porsche.
I think that was the pit lane delta we were just looking at there, 77.3, so they were only 0.3 outside of that window. That's how tight they cut it. But that's what you need to do. That gained them a position, so Jaminet is out.
Oh, devastating for this team. All the hard work that they went through to get this car ready, just made the driver change.
I don't know if he may have been coming out of the pits, and I think Souček may have had a lap under his belt. I'm not sure, though.
Try to see if we can see the replay here of what happens right up top, and the contact's already happened there, and Souček sideways there, as you can see the damage. Yeah, got to be right front damage to that Porsche to keep going. Not sure what happened there, but definite contact. It looks like both cars spinning, and the Bentley able to continue. Jaminet, his race is done.
Well, this gets a little bit tricky in terms of points because you got to do 50% of the laps of the leader. So it's going to be a tight one for those guys.
Yeah, they sure will. Let's get down to pit lane with our race leader all race long, Mike Skeen. Let's hear what he has to say.
Heck of an opening stint, Mike. Really impressive behind the wheel. It all started, though, in qualifying. How excited were you first to get the car started up front and then to keep it there?
Yeah, absolutely. We were really excited. You know, Lone Star guys have done an awesome job this weekend, staying up late nights, trying to perfect the car, and they really did it today for qualifying and the race, obviously. The car was very, very good on that longer run. Just happy to stay up front, keep it clean, hand it over to Scott, and hopefully bring it strong to the finish.
Fingers crossed the rest of the way.
Thanks, absolutely.
Well, did have a change up at the top as Scott Checkered with that pit speed, or that pit delta time from Miguel Molina and that R Ferry team right at 77.3 seconds. You can't even say 0.3 of a second fast enough, and it's already gone. So that's how close it was on the charts, able to lead now.
And it wasn't a bad one for Lone Star. I mean, they came in with a marginal lead and went out with a marginal deficit. So they're probably only a couple of seconds outside, so it wasn't a horrendous start, but that's the close margins that you need to run if you're going to turn it from a podium into a victory. But Heckert settled in nicely here. He's done a really strong job as Schiller is chasing him down in a similar machine.
Wolf Hensler in that Pfaff Motorsports Porsche slides into fourth. Souček, even with the spin and the damage, is back into sixth. Soule into fifth in the Bentley he shares with Rodrigo Baptista. So the first place in our GT AM category, fifth overall now.
Soule and Souček Bentley factory drivers running in the Blancpain Endurance Championship amongst other races globally. So that's the sort of support that they are providing to the K-Pax team when they made the switch from McLaren over to Bentley for this 2018 season. Scott Hecker here doing a really tidy job.
Won 2 races in that Sin R1 in the GTS competition. Like you said, Cal went to Europe, did some racing in the Blancpain with Black Falcon, now comes back here with Lone Star Racing and had a heck of a teammate there with Mike Skeen. I know, as Greg Creamer would always say, one of the, probably one of the best sports car drivers that's unknown or without a ride mostly, as Mike Skeen's been dropping back and forth. Really ran some endurance races with this car and this team, and great to see they found a home here in Pirelli World Challenge, sitting second now.
Watch Hensler. Hensler's a man on the move right now. He's running down faster lap times than the guys in front of him by quite a chunk, quite a margin. He's up to fourth, and remember, this is the leading car in the championship.
Let's get down to pit lane with Ryan Marine with some news down there.
And looking for an update on what happened on track. Darren Law, program manager with K-Pax. We were just chatting. You don't have a whole lot of information. What do you know?
Well, it's really hard to say. I can only tell you what I've seen on the screen and what our driver Andy called in about and just said he got hit. The only thing I can tell is it appears when the Porsche came out of the pit lane, he got together with Andy, but until we get a further review on it, it's hard to say.
What do you know about the state of the car?
Well, other than Andy saying the car's okay and he's running well, he's turning good time, so we're going to keep pushing, but hard to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
A little bit of damage there on that side pod. Thanks, Ryan, for that report down on pit lane. So assuming that piece doesn't fly off and cause a puncture, it looks like the car is okay. He's right on the back bumper of his teammate, Soule, there in that number 3 Bentley Continental GT3 right in front, the blue liveried car. But yeah, Wolf Hensler, boy, he is on a tear. A 2:08 flat, fastest lap so far in that previous race. Jeff Seagal, though, look at that, a 2:06.986 last time by. Fastest lap of the race, and only about a second slower than a qualifying time in that TR3 Ferrari, 9th overall.
That is awesome. And that car's been quick. I'm not quite sure what happened to Lou. Great qualifying performance up in the first spot, but dropped down at the bottom end of the top 10 in that early going and didn't seem to have a lot of pace. So I'm not sure if something was amiss, but on these fresh set of Pirelli P0s, Jeff Siegel, former Le Mans GT winner. He's won at Daytona, he's won at Sebring. He's done a lot in endurance racing, and he's quick in a sprint race as well.
Well, down in pit lane, let's hear from the driver in that De Vilbius Mercedes that just gave it over to that young Fabian Schiller, Daniel Murad.
Yeah, Daniel, solid first stint. We were chatting about it off the air. You feel like things went pretty smoothly. Now, though, you're stuck watching. How do you feel about that situation?
I feel good. You know, Fabian Schiller, he just actually landed, I guess, Thursday late. So he missed the test day, but I mean, he's super comfortable with the AMG GT3, and we're P2 right now, so things are going really well. Yeah, I mean, from qualifying till the race, we made some changes. We missed out a little bit on the setup and quali, but the opening lap was pretty good. I told you off the air, I wasn't really thinking too much about it. I was just acting and trusting my instinct and trusting the team. CRP Racing did an awesome job preparing the car for this race.
Great first stint.
Yeah, I'm super happy with it. And, you know, P2 right now with Fabi. So, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. I'd like to stay ahead of the 96 car just for the overall points picture. But, yeah, let's see how it goes.
Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thanks.
He's already thinking big picture about Scott Hargrove's dominating weekend at St. Petersburg, and I think we're going to see a nice little tasty rivalry this year between the two Canadians. There's not a lot of love lost between them. I think they've got a lot of respect for each other and their abilities, but they've had a few rubs over the year up there in GT3 competition north of the border.
Well, they had a few rubs in St. Pete as well, so
right.
They carried over here into Pirelli World Challenge competition. Wolf Hensler, though, starting to run out, and you saw about Fabian Schiller in P2 getting around Scott Checkered in that Lone Star Mercedes. So you can see Fabian Schiller hurting that, actually getting report from race control exceeding track limits for Fabian Schiller to get that pass made over Scott Checkered, and to tell him to give that position back or there will be further penalties.
And I like that type of call. If you got it, either as a bump and run or you just exceeded the track limits, don't drive him down pit lane. Just give the position back, go racing again, because looking at Heckert's last lap was about 3.5 seconds off his best. So I'm not sure if there was traffic involved and Schiller just drove around the outside of a gaggle or what the case may have been, but either way, they're now telling him give the position back. He's got to be careful though, because Hensler's not that too far behind, and if he slows down a lot, suddenly Hecker will be by him, and Hensler could go with him.
And you want to do it soon rather than later, because if he keeps falling back a little bit more, he would fall into the hands of Wolf Hensler. So I think he'll try to find a good space here to do it right in the braking zone. He pulls over, lets him go.
The key is the communication that Scott Heckert's team is telling Scott, listen, go ahead and take it. And I tell you what, Schiller didn't really, he kind of gave him the lead momentarily. I'm not sure if they're going to be okay with that, to be honest with you. I mean, you got to be able to clear him and get the power down through the next corner. They might be telling him to give it back for real.
Yeah,
I mean, he gave him the nose, but
yeah, now,
then turned it into a drag race down through the S's.
But that Castrol Porsche now right on the back bumper of Scott Heckert is Wolf Hensler. So if you're going to give that position back again, if that didn't justify with the stewards, you might lose 2 positions here. As you can see, Wolf Hensler using every inch of pavement there, a little dust cloud as he pops that up with that Porsche.
Super impressed with this FAF Motorsport organization. Just so much history, so much success in racing, but just talking to the group, you can just tell that they're switched on. Haven't known a lot about them, but first time I've really come into contact with their team, led by Steve Bortolotti, their team manager. They're just really a good, well-oiled group, and they showcased that at St. Petersburg by rebuilding that race car and going out and taking 2 victories.
Wolf Hensler thought about looking to the inside. He saw the front end of that Porsche just jerk over a little bit. Just kind of fill up that mirrors with the young Scott Heckert. But wow, for Scott Heckert, this is a superb drive for him, still sitting on that podium spot. Try to see if he can stay in front of Wolf Hensler, maybe stay behind Schiller, who's had a lot of experience behind these cars. So here is our leader, Miguel Molina, in that R Ferry Motorsports, and Ryan Moraine has caught up with Tony Vilander, who gave this car over to Molina.
Guys are running P1, but I know the team is racing with heavy hearts this weekend. How important is it to get a good result for Remo and the rest of the bunch?
Yes, there's been some unfortunate situations in Remo's family. First, his brother passed away when we were at St. Pete, and now his father. So a lot of things combined together. So, I mean, team has stick together. I made a mistake in St. Pete race 2, so there's been a lot of rebuilding, taking car back to Toronto, driving back down here. So, I mean, it's good to be out front. There's still some time to go. Miguel is quite comfortable in the car. Now we need to monitor a little bit the lap time, considering, for the grid position for tomorrow. Apart from that, after the start, it's just difficult to catch. The car in front of me, he had a little bit more pace in certain parts of the track, and then I had some others, and basically the 2 seconds he pulled away in the start was there.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Well, he talks about that, trying to get that fastest lap as he is sitting on the outside pole right now. It would be Jeff Siegel starting in P1 with that 206.986. Vilander able to do a 207.947 a little bit earlier in the race to set that fastest lap, but Molina just goes fastest sector time in that sector 1. We'll see if he can better that lapse time.
Yeah, it's a big chunk to find, a second. Typically those tires will peak about lap 3 or 4, but maybe they set them on a slightly lower starting pressure to get through this full stint. And maybe Molina can dig deep and find that time, but Jeff Siegel was literally a man on a mission when he jumped behind the wheel of that number 31 Ferrari, the Vancouver machine. Soucek with a damaged Bentley, not really able to put any pressure on his teammate, fellow Bentley boy, Maxime Soulet, who runs in the 5th position. So he's campaigning that number 3 car with Rodrigo Baptista.
There's Ryan Dial, your Pro-Am leader, sitting 7th overall. Razzle dazzle, Ryan Dial from True Speed with this Audi R8 LMS GT3. Talked to them at an Audi event here Thursday night. Had himself and Parker Chase up there. Really appreciate Audi putting on a great event at their driving experience. Had about a little over 100 guests from Audi North Austin and Audi South Austin dealerships. They gave hot lap rides. Actually, it was dark when they were giving the hot lap rides here. I don't know about going around this course in the dark, but talking with Ryan, he said the brakes on this Audi R8 are really, really good. And that's where its strong suit is.
Yeah, and Ryan's just the ultimate pro. I mean, he had a breakout, I think it was 2012, where I think he did like 27 races globally, and he was on the podium in about 19 of them, including success over in Europe with the WC Championship. But he really can drive anything quickly. Tends to do a lot of prototype racing these days, but when you put him behind the wheel of one of these GT cars, he's equally as quick.
Well, equally as quick as well in a Ferrari, it seems to be Martin Fuentes in that Hublot Alpha Prime Ferrari 488 GT3. Got a new team there with Scooter Garage Italia prepping that car, and it's kind of a homage there to the Mexican flag. We're down in Mexico City where Martina's from, and then the Italian flag as well for Ferrari. This car right before St. Pete was at the Ferrari test track in Italy 10 days before St. Pete, testing and practicing, and flew the car over here for the race. As David Baker in that Apex Capital Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, leading in our GT Cup category. JC Perez in 2nd, Travis Hardwick in 3rd. Metney had that earlier spin and problem running off course, and David was there to capitalize, leading in our GT Cup class. He's got about a
huge lead.
Huge
20-odd seconds over Perez, and
yeah.
Metney's now down in the 4th position, so I'm not sure if Metney had a troublesome pit stop along with the slight off. I don't think he lost over half a minute with that off that we saw, but maybe we only caught the back end of that moment.
Longtime competitor in the Pirelli GT3 Cup, over 70 starts in that series, and making his debut here in Pirelli World Challenge. But Miguel Molina, 209.4 was his previous lap. That's the fastest of, it looks like, our really down to our top 10.
Yeah, I don't see them digging deep enough to find the sort of times that they need to grab the pole position point, but they should have a pretty solid starting spot on the front row right now, unless someone can pull a rabbit out of their hat here in the late going.
Of course, the Ferrari of Alberta, Toronto, Canada team, our Ferry Motorsports, and been a staple in Pirelli World Challenge here in the last few years. A lot of great Ferrari drivers coming through this program.
Probably their breakout season was with Olivier Beretta in 2015, I think, when they narrowly missed out on the championship. That incredible race that we had at what was then Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, now WeatherTech Laguna Seca, Raceway Laguna Seca. And just he and O'Connell going for that championship down to the wire. Just missed out on a second, and we're anticipating running a full season last year, but then just had a lot of issues in the early part of the year with damage to race cars, kind of abandoned the project. We saw Marcelli back, I think, at Mid-Ohio for a one-off in the Ferry Motorsport Ferrari, but just regrouped and come back strong for this year with Tony Vielander obviously nominated as their lead driver.
Yeah, very impressed with Scott Checkered here. I thought when Wolf Hensler was going to start pressuring him a little bit, we might see him start to fall back, but now he's pulled away a little bit from Wolf Hensler and starting to pressure Schiller here in that DeVilbiss Mercedes.
Yeah, and I'll have a great chat tonight with the stewards in terms of giving the position back. Schiller did a nice job. He got away with it, if he has gotten away with it, and doesn't have to do it again. But to give the nose to the other car and then out accelerating down to the next corner, I wouldn't say that's really giving the position back.
Yeah, it was close enough.
Yeah.
But I think we got our points leader in our GT Pro category, Scott Hargrove, down on pit lane with Ryan Marine.
That's right, Scott. You came into the weekend leading the points by virtue of sweeping the weekend at St. Pete. I know you're already thinking about championship, so with that in mind, the position that you guys run in right now, are you satisfied with the race you've had so far, knowing you have another one tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, satisfied is a good word. I know we're quicker than the pace that we've shown so far. Just haven't quite had all the opportunities to get the good lap in, or in qualifying had a bit of a mistake. But at the start, it was pretty wild. We all went pretty wide. I lost sight of where the guys were around me, so I didn't know if I could turn in, and I ended up losing a spot to fall back to 6th. But after that, I just settled into the race, had a good battle with Christensen for a bit, and then Wolf's in the car right now doing a fantastic job. I think we're up to 4th, and the two guys in front of us are battling. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we can get one more. But championship-wise, we're still looking good.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well, this is a guy who loves those double-header weekends. He won 10 of 12 races on his way to his second GT3 championship north of the border last year. Had a really good single-seater career going on, but just didn't have the funding to continue. But he was really a leading light, and one of those guys who just slipped through that net, but he's found a great home here with the FAF Motorsports team, and I think they're going to do great things.
Yeah, won the 2013 U.S. Formula Ford 2000 championship. We talk about his success at St. Pete here in Pirelli World Challenge. He swept the weekend there in that series in 2013 at St. Petersburg, so knows what to do at St. Pete, and really his first foray into sports cars and tin tops has been in Porsches, so he's able to shine here and is a good, nice young man as well. Looking back at some of our other competitors here, David Askew in the Mercedes-Benz Security National Mortgage, second in our GT AM category. He's about 8 seconds behind our leader, Martin Fuentes. And speaking of gaps, Miguel Molina, 9.9 seconds over Fabian Schiller in that second place.
Yeah, he's just kind of taken off. And a lot more experience, obviously, than the two guys who are chasing him behind. Hensler seems to have plateaued a little bit. He had a real spurt going with that number 96 car. We just spoke to his teammate, obviously, Scott Checkered, the championship leader. But that seems to have plateaued a little bit. But there you can see a pretty even between second, third, and fourth. I'll tell you what, Soule is not going away. Those Bentleys seem to be pretty strong. Over the years, they've historically been easy on tire wear. So the longer this stint goes on, the more these guys may backpedal towards Soule, who's currently running in that 5th position in the number 3 K-Pax Bentley. There you see him, that bright blue Bentley in the background. Soucek's dropped a little bit away, but just hanging in there with the damaged race car.
Well, of course, you think about Rodrigo Baptista and Maxime Soule. That is your leader in our Pro-Am category, with Rodrigo Baptista being the Am category driver. So 5th place overall in top 5, but first in our Am category, Ryan Dial, second in the Am category with young Parker Chase, and then Jeff Siegel Wei-Lu in 3rd, 7th, and 8th overall, respectively.
The power down coming off that corner. Really bumpy through there. We understand that most of the track grinding is going to occur between turn 1 and all the way down to the apex area for turn 11. The track manager were explaining to me with the typical grinder, it has like 60 teeth. This one has like 600, so it's not going to give those big grooves, more of a polished finish to it. And certainly the Formula One brigade, when they get here later in the season, will appreciate that. They don't like bumps.
The MotoGP cars here in April are going to love it when those bikes get out here.
Yep.
But I think that also helps too. It makes the tires not wear as fast with the big grooves as well around this bumpy track, and something that good to see them still improving this facility here at Circuit of the Americas.
Well, it's a massive investment. They're actually purchasing the machine, as I understand it. Will then be willing to rent or lease out to other circuits if they should need to take advantage of the equipment now being here in the United States.
So you had all your notebooks for a Pirelli World Challenge on a nice smooth track. You come here this year, it's bumpy, so you got to change everything, get notes. Then you're going to come back next year, and it's going to be totally changed again.
That's right.
Well, you saw Suchek there get way sideways coming on to the straightaway here out of turn number 20. That car, obviously the handling, when you take a hit in the side of the car and that rear suspension on the left, just shocking that that car's still going, let alone there. I'm sure the handling is not right on that Bentley.
Yeah, I thought the damage was to the suspension as well when it initially drove away. I think it was just the bodywork, the angle to the wheel looked a little askew, but he's obviously doing a great job. It can't be too far off him to be managing the pace he has right now. It'll be disappointing. I think Alvaro will be disappointed. I mean, you'd have to say he came into this year as the championship favorite with last year's champion Pat Long no longer competing with us, and Alvaro coming off the championship in 2016. I think everyone felt that the McLaren last year just didn't seem to have the overall balance of performance. It was strong at certain circuits, but for the whole championship year, the Ferrari seemed a bit stronger. Certainly the team felt that the Bentley had the greatest potential, and that's why they made the switch, along with the support that they're getting from the Bentley brand this year, but not the start to the year they were looking for.
You see Brian Dial there, second place in our Pro-Am category with young Parker Chase. I think it's interesting to see Dial sort of move into this coach mentorship driving portion of his career now with that young Parker Chase.
Well, I think it's something that all of these guys, they like to stay busy, and certain GT categories where there is now a two-driver lineup like we have here in Sprint X competition, they see it as a great avenue to stay busy, you know, keep sharp, and so many championships now. The testing is restricted, the budgets are such at a point where teams do not do a lot of running, so drivers feel they're kind of underutilized, and if they put two programs together, that's what they want to do. They want to be doing 20-plus races a year.
A good run from Dial. He might be under attack here from Jeff Siegel, as Jeff Siegel is continuing to do lap after lap. He was the fastest race lap previously at a 2:08.3. He was about 0.3 of a second quicker than the car in front of him, Ryan Dial, as he looks for that third place on the podium. Is Siegel right now for our AM category, trying to see if he can move up to second now. Better off Parker Chase. 4.5 minutes still to go, and Siegel is coming.
He is, and he's worked with his teammate now for 3 years coaching him, and when Wei Lu said, listen, I'm ready to make the move, just said, this is what we should be doing. Let's look at the Pirelli World Challenge. I think it's a great fit, and they've got a great team that they're working with there. Certainly coming out of the box really, really strong.
You see Jeff Siegel in that TR3 Ferrari. This is the same car that Daniel Mancinelli and Roshiro drove here last season for a victory in Sprint X competition back in September. So good to see them and still competing here in Pirelli World Challenge in this two-driver format. And the first time we've had Ferrari of Vancouver supporting a race car here in Pirelli World Challenge. So welcome to the series for that team and that dealership up in Vancouver, Canada as well.
Just won a couple of GT championships over the years. And as I mentioned, won a lot of the big endurance races, including Daytona in class, Sebring in class. And the one that everyone wants, of course, is Le Mans, which he did with the Scuderia Corsa team.
Well, you can see that Ziegelman Industries sponsored our Ferry Motorsports Ferrari 488 GT3 now. Still have a 458 that they campaigned for the last 2 years in the stable. Hopefully we'll see that car make an appearance a little bit later as well in the GTA category, especially at the home race at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But 3 minutes to go, and it's going to be a pretty emotional victory, I got to think, for that team with the problems that, Vilander had talked about with Remo Ferri losing his brother right before St. Pete and getting the word on Tuesday that his father had passed away now as well back in Italy. And like I said before, all of Pirelli World Challenge, all the competitors and fans alike, wishing the Remo Ferri family our best wishes, and our thoughts and prayers are certainly with you. But they can hold it together here for about 2.5 minutes. Don't think there'll be a dry eye down there on pit lane.
Yeah, and it's going to be just be shy of the 60-minute mark coming around to take the stripe the next time. So there'll be 2 more laps, I believe, from Miguel Molina.
An 8.5 second gap now is the back to Schiller in that DeVilbiss Mercedes. Scott Heckert still holding strong in that Lone Star Racing Mercedes in third. Wolf Hensler, you mentioned, sort of plateaued there in fourth. And the 2 Bentleys, Soule and Suchek, followed by Dial in 7th, Siegel in 8th, Pumpelly in 9th. Sort of lost track of that lead group in that 24 Allegra Motorsports Porsche. And then Alessandro Brisson in the Lamborghini with Dream Racing rounds out your top 10. Getting word, white flag, and next time by, here's your GT AM leader, Martin Fuentes. He'll get the white flag here this next time by as well. 1 lap down to your leader, Miguel Molina.
That'll be a brilliant start to his campaign. 3 wins out of 3 races potentially here if he can bring it home for another couple of laps. But that battle for 2nd through 4th is still pretty tight. There's only about 1.4 seconds between Schiller, Heckert, and Hensler. So any bobble there could jumble up those final podium positions as Molina has a healthy lead. He's not going to have any life in those tires to set a fast lap, so just bring it home at this stage. Not worry about that fast lap. He's got a good lap that'll put him 2nd on the grid. But Siegel just in another world with his fastest lap of the race here this afternoon.
Well, not necessarily just a misstep with that lead pack there from 2nd all the way back to 6th. If those guys even get side by side with as close as these GTZ cars are, there could be a change here as we follow around our leader coming up to that white flag.
Something about Ferrari with those gold wheels takes you back to a different era. Just looks right, sounds right. Molina, great debut, doing exactly what you'd expect of him. Cold tires, great pit stop by the Ferri team. That's what really got them the lead in terms of executing that pit stop to within 3/10 of the exact pit lane delta of 77 seconds. White flag for Molina, 3/4 of a lap to go as he rounds turn 1. What a set of quarters this is, just keeps coming at you, constant change of direction. This will torture the tires through here. There's no let up, constant load, one way then the next.
Well, we talk about all that's right in the world to see that Ferrari with those gold wheels. R. Ferri Motorsports returns, hopefully. Don't want to match it off too much, but getting around turn number 8 and 9, down here through turn number 10 into the braking zone of turn number 11. Going to be a long time since this team's been on the top step of the podium.
Miguel Molina ran in the World Endurance Championship last year in the GTE-M categories. Ferrari started to place him with various programs. I mentioned a lot of success with Audi over the years, predominantly in the DTM Championship, one of the most competitive forms of motorsport globally. If you succeed there, that means you have real talent, and this boy has it in spades.
Yeah, being a Ferrari factory driver got to be a dream. If secondary to maybe a Ferrari Formula One driver, I can't think of any better factory team to drive for than Ferrari. And Miguel Molina, Tony Vilander both have that designation, and to team up with the historic racing teams such as R. Ferri Motorsports, and to be a part of the Pirelli World Challenge in this new Sprint X category. Only a few corners left here to bring it home to get that win. Like we said before, I know Remo sitting in Italy watching. Can't wait to see you back at a racetrack here, and of course to celebrate the race win here today for Miguel Molina and Tony Vilander, the R. Ferri Motorsports Ferrari P1 here today.
Great performance by both the drivers. Team really got it right, and coming across the line in second, that's Schiller. CRP Racing, another podium run here at Circuit of the Americas. Heckert, a nice drive there as well, withstanding the pressure from Hensler.
Maximilian Soule gets fifth place, first in our Pro-Am category. Jeff Siegel able to get around Ryan Dial, and I don't know what happened to Dial as he's fallen back behind Pumpelly as well. but looks like third in our Pro-Am category will be that car of Ryan Dial and Parker Chase. See what happens here with Ryan Dial. Is Jeff Siegel able to get around him in that Audi R8 LMS?
Siegel certainly had a charge going, and there we see Ryan off in the Toolies.
Looks like 19 there. It looks like he had a problem. I don't think that's a
That's not just an off.
that's not just an off. That's a mechanical. Looks like that left front was pointed in the wrong direction.
I wonder if there was contact. Certainly Jeff Siegel was closing on him with a faster car at the end of the race.
Here comes your AM winner. Martin Fuentes making it 3 in a row, extending his GTA points lead now and overall lead. His teammate Cesar Baccarella able to get the win now in his debut in a Pirelli World Challenge. So good win for him and that team and that Hublot Ferrari.
Yeah, that's awesome. Martin is such a character. Big personality. If you haven't met him, just go walk through the paddock. You'll probably pick him out. Very demonstrative person, but great charisma. We love it.
There's JC Perez, the number 71 Lamborghini, getting second in our GT Cup. Here's your race winner in our GT Up category, David Baker, in that Apex Capital Porsche 911 GT3R. Get his win in his debut here in Pirelli World Challenge competition. It was David Baker leading, JC Perez in second, Travis Hardwick third in his Dream Racing Lamborghini. Yeah, a lot of great racing in our GT Sprint X category. But once again, congratulations to our Ferry Motorsports team. There's Miguel Molina coming down into turn 18, turn 19 area, right onto pit lane. Get a chance to get both of those drivers to talk. As we look here at some of the results that finishes out round number 1 of the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Texas here at Circuit of the Americas. It is Miguel Molina and Tony Vilander, your race winners here today. Fabian Schiller, Daniel Mrad gets second. Scott Heckert, Mike Skeen third in our Pro category. Wolf Hensler and Scott Hargrove in fourth. Maximilian Soule and Rodrigo Baptista fifth. First in our GT Pro-Am category. Andy Suchek and Alvaro Parent will get 6th place overall in the GT Pro. Jeff Siegel, Wei Lu, 2nd place in our Pro-Am category. Spencer Pompelli, Michael Christensen, 8th in our GT class. And Alessandro Brisson and Yuki Hirata able to get the 3rd and final podium spot in our Pro-Am category. And Jerome Bleekemolen, Tim Pappas round out your top 10 overall in the GT category. And there is Miguel Molina getting out of that car. Ryan Marine down on pit lane. Got to be an exciting and great time for that Ferrari team.
No doubt about it. A lot of excitement down here from Miguel Molina. We'll let him get his helmet off in just a moment. It is the first overall win for our Ferry Motorsports since Long Beach in 2015. Miguel getting the helmet off now. And would love to get your thoughts on what has to be a special, emotional win for you. What does this win mean to you and mean for the team, given everything that you've been fighting through?
Yeah, actually it was really good. For me, it was a really good feeling, especially my first race here with the guys, with Remo Ferry Motorsport. So I'm really thankful for that opportunity that Ferrari and Remo gave me. So alongside my teammate Tony, it's a really nice feeling to score our first victory here.
The car looked awfully fast, but you've got to do it again tomorrow. Can you keep it up front again?
We'll see. We will see. Actually, we have a good car today. It was a bit tight pit stop, but then I could push in the outlap, and then it was a bit easier. But at the end, it's always a close fight. It's all about small details. So for me and for us, was a perfect race.
Thank you, Miguel. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, his teammate Tony Vilander getting that win as well, gets the hug from the crew. And like we mentioned, with the passing of Remo Ferry's brother and father, it's got to be a very emotional win for that team to get the win, Cal.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Miguel to come in on the back end of a difficult time for the whole group, a crash race car. We now see Ryan Dial there at the side of the road. Obviously some damage to that Audi late in the going, which cost him some precious points.
Yeah, it looks like the rear end of that car is a little askew there. Not sure what the problem is. They're trying to look for loose body panels to work, so not sure what happened, but it looks like they're focused there on the left rear of that car. Looks like it's up a little bit in the air.
Yeah.
Unfortunate there, was running second in the Pro-Am category. Completed most of the race, so they will get points. So we'll see where they're at.
Again, Jeff Siegel was closing in on him, and it's just hypothetical, but there may have been contact between the two drivers. Could have just been some kind of mechanical issue on the true speed entry. A little bounce back. I've got another crack at it tomorrow. That's the nice thing about these double-header weekends.
Well, down with our Pro-Am race winner, the guy that brought it home, Maximine Soule. Ryan Marine's with him.
Yeah, it's a class win for you with the victory here today. I know you haven't done a lot of racing in the States, so what does this one mean?
No, it's nice. First of all, I beat my teammate from Europe, so that's a great feeling. But no, we were battling. I didn't want him to pass me at the beginning, and then, I don't know, I was a bit quicker. So and then I had a slow punch on the right wheel, so I started, to calm down a little bit. And yeah, Rodrigo did a fantastic start, but not a great start, but he came back, so we were in lead in Pro-Am. So no, great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Of course, Rodrigo Baptista, his teammate, getting that win in the Pro-Am category. Way to bounce back for him. Had a little bit of problems there at St. Petersburg as well with his Bentley. Able to get a couple podiums, but not on that top step quite yet.
Yeah, no, he's going to be strong. I mean, I think each weekend you expect Baptista to just get better and better. Was just really a standout last year in GTS competition with 4 victories, and he just has that demeanor. He reminds me of an early day Montoya, just in terms, doesn't really say a lot, but has all of the tools and the weaponry on the racetrack.
Not bad for the young Brazilian there, making it happen. Oh, Ryan's down here with Jeff Siegel and Wei Lu as well. Second place in our Pro-Am category here today.
Second place in fastest lap, Jeff. That car looked pretty quick out there, and you got a good starting spot tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, things are looking really good tomorrow. I'm really excited for this new program with Ferrari Vancouver and TR3 Racing. Can't give enough credit to my buddy Wei Lu here. He put the car on pole in class and did a stellar job for his first race weekend in this class. Car was fantastic. We bridged the gap to the leaders in our class, and on the last lap, I went side by side with Dial at the end of the straightaway. Left him quite a lot of room, and he took it back, and then I went forward into turn 15 and got caught off guard a little bit by where he braked. So I didn't mean to do it like that. I apologize to him and his team. I know they're pretty hot right now. They don't want to hear it, but it wasn't my intention. Anyway, I don't want to take anything away from a great job by these guys and the fantastic Ferrari that they prepared.
And safe to say a dream start for you, Wei?
Yes, it is. Actually, I'm just surprised. Like, my teammate did such a good job. Jeff is so fast. Everybody's cheering for him. It's a great result for my first time racing in PWC in the GT class.
Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
You could say way to go, right?
Way to go for Wei Lu, that Ferrari Vancouver. And the answer to that question there to Cal, where there was contact with Ryan Dial and that Parker Chase Audi. So we'll see what happens with the stewards there as they go through the tech shed and the trailer there. So we'll see that. And congratulations once again to our GT Cup winner as well, David Baker. Didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he was your race winner. As we complete our GT Sprint X competition, round number 1 of Sprint X. We'll have a race here again tomorrow. I want to thank all the fans for joining us live at world-challenge.com, watching all the action live. Well, for Ryan Marine down on pit lane, Calvin Fish in the booth, I'm Jeff Lepper. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow for GT competition.